It's Friday the 27th of March. From the MEN newsroom, this is Channel M's Lunchtime News, and these are today's headlines. A funeral firm shuts in Wythenshawe, owing thousands of pounds.
I wouldn't be using her services again. I wouldn't recommend her services. I would go to a reputable company.
Also this lunchtime, marching on Manchester, a new tactic from the Salford students fighting to save their school.
It's a human right to be able to march for what you believe in. As Winston Churchill said, you do your worst and we'll do our best.
And our feathered friends, why children at one primary school know that spring is on the way.
I stroke them and see them and cuddle them.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime, an Undertaker in Wythenshawe has shut up shop, owing thousands of pounds to people who've paid for their funerals in advance. The director of the firm insists their money is held in a secure account, but hasn't yet shown any evidence about where the cash is held. With more on our top story, here's James Webster.
The shutters are down and the shop's now up for rent. This was the first thing that raised the alarm. There was anything wrong at Lawson's funeral services. When you try calling the telephone number, the line's dead. And that's hugely concerning for anyone who's still owed thousands of pounds. 98-year-old Alexander Fraser is one of them. He's paid £2,240 in advance for his funeral and has this handwritten receipt to prove it. The former printer says he's in complete shock and he's worried that if he died tonight, there'd be no money for the funeral. Another person to lose out is Christine Knowles, whose son Jason was assaulted and killed in 2007. She paid for a headstone that she's not yet received.
There's all sorts of milestones we've had to go through and things we've had to deal with regarding the incident, losing my son, and also the trial that took some time to come to court. And then on top of that, this is something that we feel that it just seems to be going on, and there's no end to the misery, basically.
Joanne Lawson, who runs the firm, insists any cash that has been paid is held in a secure account and will be repaid. She also says she doesn't believe she's done anything wrong. The reason she says she stopped trading from these premises in Wythenshawe is because the landlord wanted to increase the rent, but the landlord says they're owed thousands of pounds by her.
The reason why I'm here today is basically to bring to light that people, when they're in a vulnerable situation, are not taken advantage of. I wouldn't be using her services again. I wouldn't recommend her services. I would go to a reputable company.
James Webster, Channel M News.
Thank you, James. Let's get some more of the day's news now. Police have arrested 3 men at this house on Hollinhurst Road in Radcliffe on suspicion of armed robbery. Shortly before 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, officers were called to a post office on Sunnybank Road, where a gang of men had threatened a security guard. They made off with a cash box, which was found dumped in a nearby bin. Police believe 2 other men involved in the robbery are still on the loose. Regular Channel M viewers will know that pupils from St George's School in Salford are locked in a long-running battle to stop the council from closing their school. Tomorrow, they're taking their spirit of resistance across the border and protesting in Manchester. Nina Warhurst explains why.
February 2008. Hundreds take to the streets of Salford for a protest organised by students from St George's Roman Catholic High in Walkden, which the council says must close for them to secure almost £200 million worth of funding. An impressive show of local democracy in action. But then the organisers, 4 GCSE students, were charged almost £2,000 by the council for expenses incurred because of the march.
In England, I thought we had a freedom of speech and a freedom to demonstrate and to a right of assembly. So I was absolutely astonished that this bill was imposed upon the school by Salford City Council. Absolutely astonished and disgusted.
The school was effectively forced to pay when the council pulled the money out of their annual budget. But like true Salfordians, the pupils decided that wouldn't be enough to stop them having their say. And so tomorrow, they'll take their march across the border to Manchester, where it's free.
And what's so impressive about tomorrow's march is that it's organised by the pupils. They contacted Greater Manchester Police and set up a meeting to find out how they could safely and legally express their democratic rights without it costing a penny.
It's a human right to be able to march for what you believe in. So adults get the say, but if children know that they can go on marches and they can support causes that they care about, people as young as us get to have their say.
It'd be great to have the support that we had last year, because once again we can show the council that people are still supporting the school and don't want it to close.
We're like fighting for what we believe in, because we believe in this school because it's like a really good school.
But time's running out for St George's. Despite it being a school that's popular in the community with consistently strong academic results, the council says it must merge with neighbouring Ambrose Barlow, which would also be moved to a site in Wardley. The pupils' only hope is that the independent school's adjudicator rules against the proposals, but until the buildings are knocked down, they won't give up the fight.
Well, as Winston Churchill said, you do your worst and we'll do our best.
Nina Warhurst, Channel M News.
And if you're driving into the city tomorrow morning, the march begins at 11:30 at All Saints Park on Oxford Road and will end around midday in Castlefield. Salford Council, meanwhile, has given us a statement this morning saying that while the Town Hall cherishes the right of citizens to protest, it has to implement the costs to ensure a safe protest. Staying with education, the exams watchdog has warned that immediate action is needed because the new GCSE science exams are too easy. Ofqual said the exams it looked at in 2007 and 2008 didn't challenge the brightest pupils, and it was easier to get a top grade than in previous years. In their assessment, the quality of the exam was a serious cause for concern. There's been an outbreak of measles at a primary school in Salford, with one case confirmed and 2 others suspected. Nurses are visiting St George's Primary in Charlestown today to vaccinate 24 children who never had the MMR jab to try and stop the infection from spreading any further. RSPCA officers were sent on something of a wild goose chase trying to find an injured bird after someone cruelly fired a crossbow arrow into a goose in Rochdale. Another animal charity has offered a £1,000 reward if you can help them find the person who did it.
We were called here last Thursday after a neighbour in the area saw 2 young lads carrying a crossbow down the canal side, and then later on in the day had seen a goose with an actual crossbow arrow through it. We've been here from last Thursday on a daily basis trying to catch it, so far unsuccessfully, mainly hampered by the fact that it still can fly. We're obviously making slight progress. Today we were almost there but not quite. I think it's absolutely horrific. I can't imagine why anybody would want to entertain themselves by doing such a cruel act. We're asking people not to give us a call about this particular goose anymore. We are well aware of where it's living, well aware that it's returning here every day, and we are dealing with it on a daily basis. So thank you everybody that's called us, but leave the phone lines open for other emergencies, and we'll deal with this one.
And we'll have some happier news about some other feathered friends later on in the programme. Now, the Shadow Cabinet will be meeting in the North West today. The Conservative leader, David Cameron, will chair the meeting in Preston. While they're here, the Shadow Health Secretary, Andrew Lansley, will visit the Christie in Withington, while the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Grayling, meets police officers in Horwich. And the Liberal Democrat leader, Nick Clegg, has been in Manchester speaking out about transport spending. He says the council should be able to bid for money from the Transport Innovation Fund, even though last December a referendum resulted in people voting against a congestion charge.
It's an outrage that the government is in effect blackmailing Mancunians and saying we're not going to give you a penny from the Transport Innovation Fund to improve transport in Manchester because you voted the wrong way on the congestion charge. This city is crying out for investment in the obvious things: extending Metrolink out to Rochdale and Oldham, improving services between Stockport and Manchester, extending out through to the airport, the Metrolink link there. And that requires money, but it's a good time to use the money that's in the government's pot, in the Transport Innovation Fund, because doing that will create local jobs at a time of recession, but of course will also create the kind of transport infrastructure this city, this region needs for years to come.
Sports coming up in just a moment, but before that, the Greater Manchester Sports Awards take place tonight at the Midland Hotel. Athlete Mark Pollock was on this morning's breakfast show to talk about them and about how he didn't let his blindness stand in the way of a career in sport.
When I was skiing into the South Pole, it was a pretty profound experience. You've a lot of time to think whenever you're out there in the South Pole, and I think the feeling that I had coming into the South Pole was pretty much the same feeling that I had crossing the finishing line in rowing when I was 14, under 15, under 16. It was the same whenever I won my first international rowing race. It was the same whenever I was in the Gobi Desert. It's the feeling that you get in sport, and you can't buy it. It's the rush of nearly failing, coming to the brink, getting through that, and achieving your goal. And that's, I think, what we're going to see tonight at the Greater Manchester Sports Awards. It's people right from a young age, the coaches, the people who are supporting it, who are helping to create, I think, what I've started to call the feeling. And it's a very, very positive story in these times of doom and gloom and moaning and misery.
Right, let's take a look at the sport headlines this lunchtime. Here's Sam Goodman.
Thank you very much, Ben. Well, Sir Alex Ferguson will retire at the end of next season, according to his son Darren. There's ongoing speculation surrounding the Manchester United manager and when he'll call it a day, but Darren believes it'll be next summer when his father eventually walks away from the game. The Manchester City manager Mark Hughes has no intentions of leaving Eastlands after further encouraging talks with the club's owner and chairman in Abu Dhabi this week. The Welshman has been under constant criticism and pressure since taking over from Sven-Göran Eriksson. The Oldham striker Lee Hughes has joined Blackpool on loan for the rest of the season after manager Joe Royle revealed the club couldn't afford to keep him. And Stockport County have a goalkeeping crisis ahead of their match against Bristol Rovers. Owen Fon-Williams is on international duty with Wales, while reserve keeper Lloyd Rigby is injured, leaving manager Jim Gannon with only trainee goalkeepers to choose from. And the Bury manager Alan Knill has strengthened his squad for the promotion run-in by signing Hull midfielder John Welsh. On to cricket, and Freddie Flintoff will feature in England's third one-day international against the West Indies today after recovering from a hip injury. Play starts at 1:30 and we'll have the latest scores from the match in our early evening news. Well, in rugby tonight, the Sale Sharks have a must-win game against Bath to stand any chance of making the playoffs. Dwayne Peel injured himself in training last night, so Will Cliff is his replacement, while the future of Rudy Kyle and Stuart Turner is still unknown.
Rudy and Stewie Turner, two guys that we're talking with at the moment, and you know, we've got a great relationship with, I've known Stewie 5 years, and Rudy's got a few options, and he came round my house Friday for tea. He's not very happy when he hears that he's going to be a coach. You know, when someone don't confront him and ask him if he's going to be a coach, because he's still only 30 years old.
There's a lot of speculation about that.
He doesn't like that at all, believe me. He gets quite angry if you suggest that he's going to be a coach. Right. He's a 30-year-old guy, and to suggest he's going to be a coach is suggesting you're ending someone's career for them, more or less. Yeah. And he has a lot of rugby to play, Rudy, and he's a good player and a good man. And, you know, he'll have options. He's got a couple of options, and he's spoken really openly and honest with me. That conversation is private between us, but the door's not closed on Rudy. And, you know, and also we'll be speaking with Stewie and see what he's got lined up.
Well, at the beginning of the month, we covered the story about local horse rider Michelle Baldwin, who was just one stage away from riding in the John Smith's People Race at Aintree. Well, congratulations to Michelle, as she's made the Aintree 10 and will now compete at the Grand National a week on Saturday with a chance to win £50,000 for the Bob Champion Cancer Trust. And finally, last night, the Manchester Phoenix failed in their only chance left of lifting silverware this season after losing to the Belfast Giants for the second time in a cup final this year. This time, it was 4-2. And overall, it was 7-5 on aggregate. Well, that's all the sport from me for now. Join me again later this evening. We'll take a look ahead to all of the weekend sport.
Thanks, Sam. That's with Andy Crane from 5 o'clock this evening. Still ahead on the lunchtime news, meet our feathered friends.
I stroke them and see them and cuddle them.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. We're here every day between 12 and 1 with all of Greater Manchester's headlines. You can always check out our reports online at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, the Stockport charity being accused of funding terrorists in Bangladesh, and why lights will go out across Greater Manchester for an hour on Saturday evening. All of that at channelm.co.uk. Now, the friends of a Didsbury schoolboy who faces deportation by the Home Office have stepped up their campaign to let him stay. 9-year-old Tony Lola and his mum Mirelle have been told they must return to the Congo, where they say they face being persecuted. Beverly Walkden has the story.
Well, we're here at the Church of England Primary School in Didsbury, where Tony goes to school. Now, you'll be part of the campaign on Monday. Tell us what will happen.
Well, there's a group of parents and children who are friends of Tony and Maire's going down to Westminster to deliver a petition with almost 2,000 signatories who believe that Tony and Maire should stay in this country, and letters from Tony's classmates that make it really clear to Ed Balls how much Tony means to everyone at this school.
Now, why is Tony so special?
Oh, Tony just brings a real zest for life to everything he does. He's wonderful, he's enthusiastic, he's keen, he's popular with all his classmates. Indeed, he was voted onto the school council by his classmates this year.
Fantastic. Well, let's meet Tony and some of his loyal supporters. Here is one. Now, you have written a letter, haven't you?
Yes.
Very persuasive and political letter. Would you like to read it out?
OK. Tony and his mum should not go back to the Democratic Republic of Congo because there are thousands of people have been killed back there and it is still not safe. Tony and his mum shouldn't go back to the DRC because children are being put in prison and the army for no reason.
Fantastic. Well, a very political and powerful letter there. Tony, you must be delighted you've got so much support. What do you think about having friends like this?
Well, it's really good because they've written really nice letters and it helps me get on a little bit more.
Now, when you go to London on Monday, what are you going to be saying to Ed Balls?
We're going to try to persuade him to let me stay and do more things for me.
OK, well, good luck with that. Well, Tony and his mum are just one of many families in Manchester who are experiencing this plight, and we'll bring you more on that story as it unfolds. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Bev. There could be big changes to the rules governing the royal family. Under the current laws, an heir to the throne loses their right to become monarch if they marry a Roman Catholic. The Prime Minister has confirmed he's begun talks with Buckingham Palace about ending that restriction that goes back centuries. Under the 1701 Act of Settlement, male heirs are also given precedence over their female relatives. Critics of the system say it's discriminatory and the changes are needed. Robbie Williams has revealed that he might rejoin Take That after all. The 35-year-old singer had previously turned down a reunion, but now says he's in regular contact with the other four members and thinks to get back together would be fun. The band split in '96 after a reported falling out between Robbie and fellow singer Gary Barlow. The band reformed, with the exception of Robbie, in 2005. Now, staying with entertainment, if you're looking for ideas for what to do this weekend, the man in the know is Neil Sowerby, the editor of citylife.co.uk, and he joins me now. Neil, together we're preparing for the invasion of the Golden Oldies.
4 nights with amazing Tina Turner at the Arena next week. But she's a mere stripling at 69. We've got Kenny Rogers, who's 70 on Sunday at the Arena. And just by chance, we've got Rob Bryan over at the Palace, who, of course, covered Kenny's Islands in the Stream for the Comic Relief single. Perhaps they could duet.
What an idea. What an idea. If they're watching, there's an idea for them.
Yeah.
And what about theatre-wise? What's on this weekend? What can we see?
Obviously, the Queen musical, We Will Rock You. And tonight, last chance to see Quidam from Cirque du Soleil at the Arena. Spectacular stuff.
OK. And the big film of the weekend, what's your tip for that?
I think everyone's talking about The Damned United, which is the film about Brian Clough. Very dark, brooding novel, but it's been lightened up for the film. And it's all about Michael Sheen's performance, which I've not seen it yet, but I aim to. And he's terrific. Does the impersonations again.
He's a man of many guises, Anthony Sheen, isn't he?
He's been so many things. He's been Tony Blair, of course. He was in Frost Nixon as Frost. Does he know who the real Michael Sheen is? I don't know.
It's like Alistair McGowan, I think he said. He's done so many impressions of Tony Blair, he's forgotten where he finishes and Tony Blair starts.
Exactly, yeah.
Neil, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now, the home of celebrity steeplejack Fred Dibner is preserved in his memory as a heritage centre. The new owners plan to restore Fred's workyard in Bolton to its former glory.
Well, here we have the... this is where the boiler is. This is what we call the boiler house, if you like. And there you've got the boiler that Fred used to use to fire up the steam engine that was in here that worked all this machinery going right along there. All these machines are all steam-driven and belt-driven. And what we want to do is get them all back up and running again, just as Fred had them. This is Fred's workshop where, yes, he used to carry out his daily work. His mates used to come in and have a brew with him. We've got the table and chairs that they used to sit on. We've even got his boots. If they want to come and have a look at it, then Get yourselves down here and have a look, because it's amazing.
Weather coming up for you in a moment, but first, it may not feel like it, but spring is on the way soon, and children at a Manchester primary school have been celebrating with some new arrivals, fluffy baby chicks. It seems they're the star attraction at Broadhurst Primary in Moston.
The chicks started hatching on Monday evening. There were the first signs that they were starting to hatch Monday during school time, and the children were all very excited. So Mr Withercombe took them home to make sure they got the video footage of the first one hatching. The children have been very excited. I mean, one of our big areas of focus in the foundation stage is developing the children's talk, and it has certainly been a talking point for the children. There's been lots of language development. The chicks have been here for 3 weeks now. They've been in the incubator with the children checking up on them regularly and looking for any signs of anything happening. But it's not caused as much excitement as this week when the chicks have actually been hatching.
I stroke them and see them and cuddle them. I've been very happy with them.
What kind of things do you do with them?
I like watching them, and I'm hoping that the legs of them are going to get better. I've got some that are called Dizzy, and then I've got Rolly, and I've got Sam.
And the clocks go forward tomorrow night, heralding British summertime. Let's see if we've got some weather to match. Here's Michelle Eagleton with the Weekend Outlook.
We have had some blustery wind across Greater Manchester, and it is set to continue into the early afternoon, so do be aware of that if you are heading out and about this afternoon. I think you might need a couple of extra layers and also an umbrella, because we are going to have a few showers, mainly in Preston and Wigan. They're suffering the most from that. Highs are between 8 and 9 today, so again, quite a cold day across the region. As you can see, the picture at 9 o'clock, very, very dark indeed for most of the morning. A lot of cloud about, and as I said, some strong winds. Now, the winds should, fingers crossed, die out as we move later on to this afternoon. And in fact, at about 5, 6 o'clock tonight, we are going to see some really nice, pleasant weather. So if you've got any plans for this evening, it is going to be dry and bright. Not a bad Friday night. But what's the rest of the weekend got in store for us? That's what I hear you cry. Well, I can tell you, not too bad, because Saturday, mixture of sunshine and showers. Sunday's looking glorious, and then those temperatures will improve on Monday and Tuesday, leaving dry and bright.
This is Channel M's Lunchtime News. Our top stories. An undertaker in Wythenshawe has shut up shop, owing thousands of pounds to people who've paid for their funerals in advance. The director of the firm insists the money is held in a secure account, but hasn't yet shown any evidence about where the cash is held. There's been an outbreak of measles at a primary school in Salford, with 1 case confirmed and 2 others suspected. Nurses are visiting St George's Primary in Charlestown today to vaccinate 24 children who never had the MMR jab, to try and stop the infection from spreading further. And Robbie Williams has revealed that he might rejoin Take That after all. The 35-year-old singer had previously turned down a reunion, but now says he's in regular contact with the other 4 members and thinks getting back together would be fun. Later on the early evening news with Andy Crane, find out why Stockport County's game tomorrow could be the last in the club's history. But for now, those are today's headlines, and that was the Lunchtime News. Don't forget, if there's ever a story you think we should be covering, text us on 88821 or email us newsdesk@channelm.co.uk. Andy Crane's here with the early evening news from 5. Join him then if you can, but from me and the Lunchtime team, thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.